that's just something we always ask businesses that are kind of on the fence about it. It's like, can you afford not to be in this space? And that's the key thing to ask yourself. And most of the time it's no, I can't. You want to be owning that before somebody else and some other rogue trader sort of like occupies that space for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paid Search NYC podcast. Today, very excited to be chatting to Adam Rose, who is the founder of an agency in the UK, Forum Digital. Forum focus on performance and commerce media. So we're going to be going deep on TikTok in particular today. So very excited for that. But before we jump in, Adam, thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's great to be here.
Awesome, of course. One thing I did leave out in that very brief introduction is the fact that you've been in paid search for quite a long time. I don't want to say the year. I'll let you say the year. But you're a paid search guy. So maybe tell us a little bit about kind of where your career started and kind of bring us up to the point where you founded Forum.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are right. It's been some time actually. So you can tell by the greys that are coming through. But yeah, a bit of background to me then. So I've been working in digital marketing now for over 18 years. I've always worked agency side, working across some many businesses across different verticals. I started out as an agency called the Searchworks back in the day, and they were, I guess, one of the real sort of key players in the industry at the time, and probably one of the first sort of specialist paid search agencies. And that's where I sort of learned my craft. I started there in the retail division and worked my way up to head of paid search, where I oversaw all of their paid search operations. And it was there that I got to know Ben Knight and Luke Smith, the founders of Crowd. Yeah, they convinced me to join Crowd at sort of the start, again, to head up their paid search division. And so I joined Crowd at the start of 2012, heading up paid search and helps up grow and develop that, working across some amazing brands. And it's great seeing after you continue to do that today, which is very, really good. But yeah, I wore a variety of different hats when I was at Crowd. Always remained close to paid search. But I think one of the things that I did in the last sort of 6 years during my time there was create their e-commerce division, which was very much focused on Amazon and retail media more generally. And that's something I've carried through to Forum Digital.
That's awesome. So talk to us about Forum. Talk to us about the kind of the areas you specialize in, the kind of clients, that kind of thing.
So Forum Digital is an independent digital marketing agency which primarily focuses on retailers, providing consultative support across digital and full end-to-end support on Amazon and TikTok Shop. Why did we set up? It's a good question. I guess having sort of worked in the industry for a long time, working agency side and seeing other agencies during that time as well, I think from what I could see, many agencies, not all agencies, but a lot of agencies weren't sort of properly aligned on sort of to sort of retail operations and retail businesses in terms of how they worked in practice, understanding about their fulfillment methods and their sort of their cost of goods and understanding what's required to make the business run sustainably and profitably. And so that's why we created Forum to be a really independent agency that could remain dynamic and agile in what is obviously a fast-moving industry. And we wanted to be able to partner with like-minded businesses with growth potential and also businesses that are on the sort of same wavelength of us and that would allow us into their businesses to build long-term partnerships, essentially. So that's a little bit on us.
Nice. I have a couple of questions on that. The first one is, I feel like a lot of people in their agency career get to the stage where they think, oh, I can have a go at doing this. I build my own thick. And it obviously takes a lot of courage to go and do that. How much does reality match what your expectations going into starting your own business?
It's a really good question. I mean, we're still relatively young. It's still a relatively small business. It's kind of opened my eyes to like the wider things that go into running a business in terms of the sort of the finances and the legal side of things. And but yeah, it's been thoroughly enjoyable. I've really enjoyed it, and I guess there was an aspect of having done this for various agencies over the years, thinking, well, built up these teams, built up these divisions. Why don't I just have a go at it myself? But it's harder than you think, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable.
Awesome. And my second question is the question slash more of an observation. You talk about the need to understand those businesses to a deeper level. So it's not just about how do you manage the media, manage the platforms. It's also like having an understanding of like business operations, what happens after the purchase. And we did an episode with Jack Hepp on local businesses, and he talked about the fact that like you need to know, if you're something that leads to a local business, like what happens after that point? Like what's the sales team doing? What's so again, it's like what happens after the media's kind of done its job is important for you to know, because that helps add value to the work you do.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I just find it interesting that it's almost like the specialism is coming back a little bit. We have this constant back and forth of a specialist and generalist, but it feels like what you talked about there is the advantage of being a specialist in that area, and that's working for you. Is that?
Yeah, completely agree. And in all honesty, like when I was at Crowd and we was, as I say, creating sort of like the full end-to-end sort of operations for say Amazon, it really opened my mind to like all the work that goes in behind the scenes for inventory management and shipment, creating shipments and looking at all the costs associated to trading on a platform like Amazon. And that just really piqued my interest, and I'd learned a huge amount by bringing in specialists and learning from them. And that's something that we've wanted to kind of continue, really, is offer that specialism, but also take it a step further, like become true consultants to some of these organizations that we work with. And we're very fortunate to work with businesses where some of them are relatively small, so you're working with the sort of the manager or owner of the business, and that is quite refreshing because it means that you can, you haven't got to work around various stakeholders to get things done. You can be a lot more quicker, a lot more agile. And in all honesty, I mean, we'll talk about TikTok shortly, but those that really succeed in this industry are those that are really quick off the mark and first to market on some of the new developments and new innovations. So building really deep partnerships with clients is really key to us. But yeah, that in itself, I think, is a bit of a specialism of ours. Is knowing how we can add value along the way.
Yeah, you mentioned innovation and moving fast, so that's a great segue into TikTok, a platform that certainly from an e-commerce perspective has absolutely blown up in the last couple of years. It's also constantly in and out of the news right now. We don't have to get into that, but yeah, let's talk about TikTok as an e-commerce platform. How has that evolved over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok itself, as you know, it's been around for some time. Launched in 2017, but during that time, it has grown significantly. And I think the latest stat was, I think it's 1.6 billion active users each month globally, which is staggering. Like the amount of sort of engagement you've got there. But I think that the fastest growing user base across Gen Z and millennials, as you kind of appreciate and expect, it is a younger demographic. However, I guess that's where your future is for business. That's where your future customers are. So it just emphasizes the importance to try and tap into this growing segment, this growing audience. But yeah, I'd say TikTok itself is continuing to grow, but the big development has been TikTok Shop, which is still relatively new. So that launched. There's various sort of beta trials being conducted, I think, in sort of 2022 or maybe before that. But the full rollout and launch was in September 2023 in the UK and the US. But it's only recently launched in France, Italy, and Germany this year. I think it's March of this year that it rolled out there. And TikTok Shop is just, it's growing at a pace. 33 billion in sales was recorded last year, which itself was pretty staggering. But in the UK market alone, 44% of users have made a purchase on the platform, and 1 in 4 TikTok users buy on the platform once a month. So once they start making that purchase, it's they've captured, and they continue to engage with it. And another stat that really stood out to me was that 67% that are made a TikTok purchase, but kind of inspired by what they saw on TikTok. There wasn't out to purchase at the time. They just kind of grabbed, whatever content they was looking at, grabbed their attention, and that made that purchase. So it's all about discoverability. And I think for new brands, new startup businesses that want to get themselves out there, TikTok is absolutely the place to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Couple of questions there. When it comes to assessing, if I just take a step back and say, if you're looking at your media mix and trying to understand if TikTok is something you should be getting involved in, active on a platform, spending money on, does it start with an assessment of the audience? Like you mentioned there, Gen Z, millennial, and I think a lot of the stats we generally hear when it comes to TikTok as a search platform versus Google is it is skewed more towards a demographic, and in some cases even like categories, like you think travel, beauty, etc. Is there some audience work that has to be done before you recommend advertisers work on the platform, or is it just becoming like a standard part of the media mix?
I think you're all right. I think it does lend itself to lower price point items with a repeat purchase rate, and obviously those in sort of health and beauty, that is a huge sector at the moment. But I guess people's sort of confidence in the platform is kind of skewing that in terms of like being more driven towards sort of low price point items. But that is starting to change now. Companies like say Ninja, as in like the sort of household sort of food appliances, like the Ninja bullets and stuff like that. They've set up a shop. Loads of more sort of established sort of retailers are starting to set up now. And I think that, with a view that more and more people are going to start to make these purchases and build that confidence in the platform. But I think those that have a younger demographic to tap into, or if they want to grow their market share within that sort of audience segment, then it definitely is the right place for them. But as you said, whilst right now it is more of the sort of millennials, Gen Zs, that those people are, give them a few years, they'll be moving on and sort of growing and staying with the platform. But they're still the target audience that you want to be sort of tapping into.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it, but I'm sure maybe it was like Gary Vee talks about the fact that all these platforms eventually age up. So even if it's currently a younger demographic, it's going to change. I might edit this part out, but my dad is actually on TikTok. He makes TikToks every now and then.
Oh, really?
Which is incredibly embarrassing. But there you go. So
a question to you actually, Matt.
Sure.
Like, if you made a purchase on TikTok Shop?
So I am actually not on TikTok. For personal preference, I'd really try and limit my social media use right now. I think I'm definitely part of the group of people that finds that I really go deep on just doom scrolling, whether it's like Instagram, YouTube Shorts. And so I really try and cut that stuff out. So I cut TikTok a while ago, just because that platform, very addictive. So personally, I try and limit it.
I can understand that. I think obviously the nature of the industry that we're in, or I'm in particular on the TikTok side, I think obviously you have to, but you can find yourself losing so much of your time just sort of doom scrolling. But I think what is quite interesting is that a lot of people I speak to, a lot of businesses that I speak to, they're not familiar with the advancements that have been made on TikTok and the development of TikTok Shop and how it works and the mechanics behind it, and very few people that I speak to, even those that are in digital in the industry, a lot of them haven't made a single purchase to understand how easy it is to complete that.
Yeah. So there's definitely some like education that you have to do first to help people understand, and that's the importance, I guess.
Yeah. And again, this is where those businesses that really embrace big developments in the industry like this and the emergence of new platforms like TikTok Shop, they're the ones that are going to eat up the market and take full advantage. And you can see it. I mean, there's some real trailblazers out there. You look at, say, Lidl, they were the sort of first supermarket to set up on TikTok Shop. But they will be making inroads, and those that are kind of reluctant to it or skeptical of the platform, that they're just going to miss out. over time. It's a bit like Amazon. When Amazon, first started, and even now there's a skepticism behind Amazon. Is it the right target audience? Is it a bit grubby? Is it low end? Is it cheap? But the products that are sold on Amazon nowadays is every category. It's every sector. It's got someone representing them. So those that aren't sort of embracing that and being able to tap into that additional audience will be missing out.
Yeah. As you talk there and you made that comparison to Amazon, I almost feel like could you compare it to like just paid search back in the day? Like the sort of first movers who were able to really understand the importance and how much traffic you could drive from that, like they really felt the benefit. And maybe that's the same with every big platform that comes along. The first movers just benefit massively.
Completely agree. Again, like, having been in this game for some time, quite some time, the retailers that I was working with back in the day, 18 plus years ago, those that were active and invested a lot in paid search were the dominant player. They were the number one. They were the, owning their space. And so it is those that kind of sort of take advantage of this, what we get heads and shoulders above the rest. I think was quite interesting though is that the ease with which people can get set up on TikTok and TikTok Shop, it's pretty straightforward. If you're running on, say, Shopify, there's like native integrations there, and obviously a big established retailer, they might have their own sort of bespoke sort of platform that they're running off, and so that integration might be a bit more time consuming and manual, and so they might sort of shy away from sort of leaning into the platform, but that just means that those new entrants that want to be fast moving and dynamic and agile that are happy to set up on Shopify could plug in their inventory instantly and just get started and underway, and they'll reap the rewards of that. Yeah.
So we already know that I'm not on TikTok, so I'm going to ask some stupid questions. What does the user experience look like when it comes to shoppable products? Are they in a completely different section of the UI? Do they show up as ads? I guess ads within a video. How does it all look? And
yeah. It's a really good question, actually. I think like there's it is kind of sort of starting to merge together a little bit. So you have your sort of your video reels that you can scroll through, and within that you can start to run shoppable video ads. So people can then quickly navigate from there through to the product that they're viewing, and then make that purchase. There's also live streaming and live shoppable ads. So again, you can navigate very quickly to be able to make that purchase. But there is like a sort of product section, which is like a bit like sort of Google Shopping. You can kind of see just a whole raft of different products being sold across different categories. You can run paid advertising in there, so you can target certain search terms within certain categories. You look at that, it's very, very similar to Amazon when you sort of dive into that side of things. But again, we'll probably come on to it in a bit. But I think one of the things that really sets TikTok apart is obviously their huge pool of content creators that you can tap into. And that's a real unique thing about TikTok that really excites me and other people in this industry.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the native connection you talked about there with Shopify, let's just say you just do that. That enables you to appear in that kind of shoppable, Amazon-esque part of the UI. But then you talked about the shoppable video ads. So that's something different. That's where you have to either create that content, or I guess you can maybe partner with content creators and they can help with creating that as well.
Yeah. So I guess taking a step back, so in terms of the usability, and you was asking about that before, like when a brand has set up their TikTok profile, if you have a TikTok shop created, there will be like a little widget created that someone can click through, and then they'll see all of the sort of products that they've listed, and you can merchandise them in different ways. You can assign different promotions and incentives for people, and so that's kind of like your sort of mini TikTok shop that within that profile. Those products will also appear on the products sort of catalog side of TikTok as well. But yeah, when you list your products, they'll show in your sort of TikTok shop that people can navigate through for that brand. And I think what we'd say to a lot of businesses is that even if you don't have a desire to sort of push all your products on TikTok, just having a TikTok shop present and making it easy for people to kind of view your products and showcase them is quite important, because if you don't do it, other people will. It's very similar to Amazon in that it is an open marketplace. Anyone can sell products on there. And so being, the official brand shop for your business is quite important in my eyes, in terms of how the brand products are listed, how they are merchandised, what the prices are set, etc. I think it is really important. Otherwise, it's just a free for all.
Yeah, got it. How good is the reporting in the UI? Like, can you break down what can you break down and what can you segment from a reporting point of view? I'm trying to think of like channel equivalents or network equivalents to Google. Like, is there the same in TikTok in terms of different placements and formats you can report on?
There are. So I guess there's two sides to it. If we're talking about TikTok Shop, they have their Seller Center, which is very similar to Amazon's Seller Central, which is like an online platform that gives you visibility across all of the sort of trading performance of your products, how many products being sold, details of those products that you need to ship out, and obviously who to ship them out to, etc. It's where you liaise with those customers in terms of customer service, any questions that come through. That's the place that you can manage that, and there's a wealth of information there. Bearing in mind that, again, like Amazon, it's a closed off ecosystem. They hold so much first party data that over time you'll be able to leverage that, and TikTok will be able to roll out some sophisticated advancements with their advertising because of the data that it holds. The advertising side of TikTok isn't as advanced, anywhere near as advanced as, say, Google and even Amazon, to be honest. But it would evolve, and it will evolve fast because of the first party data that they capture and hold on people. And that's where Amazon has started to really make inroads in the industry, is the fact that their advertising was rather primitive at the start when you compare it to the sophistication of Google search. But because of the first party data that they hold and what people are looking for, what are they actually buying, that is so powerful. And that is that's where they're able to offer amazing sort of audience segments and targeting methods on Amazon now. And that'll be the same for TikTok over time.
Yeah, makes sense. So you mentioned Lidl there as like a first mover in the supermarket category. Are there any of the brands that you're seeing right now that are just killing it on TikTok?
I mean, because health, like sort of beauty is doing so well. You've got the likes of like L'Oreal, they're doing exceptionally well in terms of the volume of sales and trade that they're doing through the platform. ASOS has set up their Sports Direct. They quite established. One brand actually that's quite interesting, one to definitely take a look at, is a company called Made by Mitchell. So they kind of set up their business on TikTok Shop. They're like a TikTok Shop sort of native, but to the point that they've grown so much that they're now started to trade offline, which is quite interesting. But yeah, that one's to sort of look at. But yeah, I think sort of seeing Lidl sort of move into that space, it was a bit of a sign really to the industry that, look, if they can do it, why can't anybody else?
Yeah. What was the name of that brand? Made by
Mitchell.
Yeah. Okay, I'll check that out. And what in particular, like, what do you put their success down to?
That then links into like, how do you drive success on TikTok? And I think you can't. It's not just a platform where you can just plug in your inventory, set up your shop, and just leave it. I think the brands that are having the big success, Made by Mitchell being one of them, are those that are pushing content twofold. So pushing the content themselves, like organic content from the brand owner that's on point, that's on brand. But then alongside that, you then need to tap into the content creator side of TikTok. So again, this is the beauty of TikTok Shop, is that you have that network of content creators that you can leverage to really accelerate your brand, and over time you can build like an army of people that are kind of selling on your behalf. So once you've got your TikTok Shop created within the Seller Center sort of platform, you can then start to target through what they call open and targeted collaborations. you can find people that are of the right sort of tone and voice and in the right sort of sector to be brand ambassadors for you and sell on your behalf, and you can agree sort of commission rates with them, whereby, you know, any completed sales that they make, they'll take a cut, they'll take, I don't know, 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever, to go away and promote your products. Going back to your question about, like, you know, businesses that have done well, like Mabel and Mitchell, they're pushing on all fronts. They're pushing their content to draw people in, but at the same time, they're leaning on these content creators to work on their behalf and incentivize them. And then if you see some of the you know, the content that takes off and goes viral, you can then boost it with advertisement. So it's kind of a, you know, it's making use of all the different levers that you have available.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. I like the narrative right now around the power of organic across a lot of these platforms. Like, don't necessarily spend time creating video content that is mediocre and then putting money behind it. Like, spend time actually creating content that works organically and like proves itself organically, because your hands scale very quickly on these platforms now, whether it's Shorts, Instagram, or TikTok. So you've got like this very quick feedback loop on the quality of creative. And so you've kind of got no excuse to put like poor quality creative into the paid world. So yeah, you do it organically, prove it, and then, you know, sure, there's probably some things that we might need to change from the paid side, call to actions, that kind of thing. I guess what I'm saying is there's no excuse for poor paid creative, really.
No, but at the same time, I think what I've found with some businesses, some sort of, we're working with a selection of like sort of startup businesses that are trying to build up their profile. I think what I'm finding is that those that are trying to just get really polished, really nice looking sort of content pushed out, but less frequently, are falling behind those that are putting out more raw, sort of user generated type content. People want to see all aspects, and I think where people lean into TikTok is that they see some of the content being more authentic because it's real people sort of giving reviews and commenting on the content and seeing it in real life, rather than a polished brand piece of content. Not to say, not discrediting it completely. I think you need to be pushing on both fronts. You need to be putting out a regular flow of like brand-led content as to, this is what the brand's about. This is, you know, this is what we represent. This is what our brand values are. But then on the flip side, you need people that are kind of endorsing that and amplifying that, putting out their own user-generated content. And I think this is one of the big things that some big brands are reluctant about, is giving these sort of micro influencers that control to kind of run away and be creative and put out their content. If you start being too restrictive on that, then it's never going to work. I think you want to empower them to talk on your behalf.
Yeah. It's almost like, I don't know if this is the right way to phrase this, but sometimes you have to let people tell you what the brand is, versus you telling them what the brand is, because those two things could be different.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I'm curious, how competitive is it when you're trying to work with influencers? So say you're in like the beauty category and you go on TikTok. Do you have to work relatively hard to find creators to partner with, because it's got to a stage where they can be very selective, or is there still just plenty of, I guess, inventory available that it's easy to do?
Really good question. So again, the beauty of the platform is that you have visibility of like who's out there, and information on like, you know, what posts they've been putting out, how well they've been performing. So you can target them individually, but there's no guarantee that they're going to want to sort of like partner with you and sell your products on, you know, try and promote your products on your behalf. But yeah, I think for when you're putting your products out there to these content creators, they have choice over who they want to partner with, and they'll look at your business and your product range and your offering, and also your flow of like content that you're putting out. And if your offering is rubbish and the content that you're putting out isn't regular enough and isn't that great either, then it's unlikely that they'll partner with you, because they'll think, well, I'm not going to stand a chance of flogging this stuff. I may as well just move on to the next person, because there's so many businesses out there that are fast moving into this space. They do have a choice as to who they partner with. But again, it's a bit of it's a rank of like, you know, those that are very established with lots of followers, they'll be more selective in terms of who they partner with. Whereas those that are kind of sort of bottom of the ladder in terms of their following and level of their sort of engagement and success, they might be quite happy to, just partner with you, but you might not have the same success. So it's a bit of, again, this is one of the services we provide, is that testing out different content creators over time and refining that audience based on what's right for you.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, so like how you move up that ladder or up that scale, that quality scale, is to make sure that everything about your brand is leveled up as well, like the quality of the offer, the regularity of organic content. I guess just everything you can imagine that would make you look like the kind of thing that someone would want to partner with to,
Exactly.
So that makes sense. One thing we haven't talked about is measurement. What does measurement look like both in the platform, and then how do you ensure that, or how does that then tie back to like third-party measurement tools that you might use to get a holistic, multi-touch attribution?
Yeah, it's a very good question, actually. I think because I think what we do find is that there is evidence to show that the constantly putting out on TikTok and is helping sort of inform people about your products, and then people then use that just for research, and then they go on to make that purchase through your D2C site or through Amazon or through other means, again because of that sort of lack of confidence in making a purchase through sort of TikTok Shop. So that is a bit of a challenge in terms of sort of being able to stitch things together and join up the dots as to what is the attribution, what is that what sales are coming through the activity that you're running on TikTok. In terms of sales through the platform, it is a closed-off ecosystem, and that it's very transparent, and you can see exactly what's going on in the platform. And that, again, very similar to Amazon, that you have full transparency in terms of what people are doing, what they're watching, and what they're going on to buy. So you have full visibility of that. But as I mentioned, I think there is a direct correlation between putting out great content on TikTok to having a halo effect across your wider sort of digital marketing activity and your, D2C performance. And so that, might require sort of more traditional methods of sort of A/B testing, or, to see, what impact that does have.
Yeah. So you said something there that was interesting. So you can actually see, let's say you work with a content creator, or you've got a piece of organic content. If someone clicks on either of those and then purchases, you can see that flow reported in the platform.
You can, yeah. And just being able to have visibility on like the performance of these individual content creators is quite powerful, because then it gives you evidence as to what's working, what's not, and how you can change things up over time.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. I think last question for you is, we've talked a lot about TikTok Shop, but what would you say are the general sort of best practices for advertisers looking to get started?
Firstly, on TikTok, you need to be set up. You need to be pushing out that regular stream of content to make yourselves known, start to build up a community, engage with live shopping if you can, to further, expand out your audience. And then once you've got that set up, then we can start to like list your products and merchandise them correctly. So by that I mean making sure that your the products that you're listing are optimized for SEO, because there is a sort of ranking element to how well you're sort of you're putting out the content and the titles, descriptions of those products. Making sure the imagery and the videos are all on point. So it's essentially making sure that you're resale ready. Like again, we'll keep referring back to Amazon, but it's very similar in that you need to make sure that you're putting out your products in a really strong position to stand the best chance of converting when people land on them. You obviously need to make sure you've got all your back end sort of configured in terms of having the sort of connections with a Shopify or other platforms, and also how you're going to fulfill those orders. So TikTok do offer their own sort of fulfillment methods. So FBT, or Fulfilled by TikTok, whereby you sort of inbound your product to them and they will fulfill on your behalf and manage all the customer service around that. Given that it is still relatively new, and because it might not work for you, it might best sort of self-fulfilling to begin with. And so in doing so, you need to make sure that you've got all the operational things configured behind the scenes on that as well, so you can manage that sort of workflow. You then need to make sure that you've got your sort of affiliates, curators, so building a network of people that can sort of work on your behalf. You've got your products shipped out to them as well. So there is a sunk investment for every person that you're trying to, every content creator you want to sort of work on your behalf. You need to be sending out that content to them as well. And then you've got the advertising element. But I think underpinning all of this is the products. I think to make a decision as to whether it's going to be a success, you need to look at, is the product in a popular category? Is it a good product, a competitive product? Is the price point competitive? What promotional or discounting activity can you run to entice people and lure people in? And then what is the cost of cost to manufacture those products? Is there enough headroom in that product to make it financially viable by running on TikTok? Again, like Amazon, TikTok do charge a percentage commission on any sales that are made. That's obviously how it makes its money, and so you need to factor that in along the way. However, the commission that they're charging versus Amazon is a lot lower at the moment as they try to sort of expand out the market and gain market share.
Got it. Okay, nice. That all makes sense. I said that was the last question, but I actually have one more. How much are you getting asked about like the future of TikTok as a platform? And I'm speaking more about the US, which might not be a market you have as much exposure to. But do you get a lot of questions about like, well, should we be investing in this platform if it's going to get banned in a certain country, US, etc.?
Yeah, we're getting asked about it a lot, and more so probably from the smaller sort of emerging businesses that are starting out their e-commerce journey, because they recognise that it's kind of the buzzword at the moment, TikTok Shop. Like, people are aware of it, but they just don't know what to do, don't know where to get started. And so a lot of the questions are just trying to around like just the basics, like about how it works, like how they can control their brand, etc. But yeah, there's some skepticism around the platform as to, is it going to be banned, etc. in certain markets, and what's the controls over it? Is it secure? But it is, more and more people are leaning into that space, and it could be, you could perceive it as a risk that you take, but I think it is one that you could certainly take advantage of along the way.
Yeah, it seems like the opportunity and just the size of the platform. You talked at the top about like the audience size is there and number of active monthly users. Like, it's so huge, that there's a greater risk to not being on that platform, especially if you're in one of these key categories as well.
It's a very, very good way of putting it. And to be honest, that's just something we always ask businesses that are kind of on the fence about it. It's like, can you afford not to be in this space? And that's the key thing to ask yourself. And most of the time it's no, I can't. You want to be owning that before somebody else and some other rogue trader sort of like occupies that space for you.
Nice. Okay, that feels like a great place to end. Thanks, Adam, for doing this. Learned so much. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having me.